Alpharetta. My name is Officer San Antonio with the Alpharetta Police Department. I'm the residential watch officer with the city. Many of you know me, and some of you don't. I'm going to introduce kind of what I do as the residential watch officer here in a little bit. But this is going to be the second quarter community day. Some of you may not be familiar with community days because this is only the second one that we've done. The first one was done back in February. If you were there, you remember it was in the middle of the snowstorm, and we kind of rushed through as fast as we could to get you out of there at the second half of the event. But basically what community days are is a way for us to be proactive and engage in positive events within the community, so that you can have a place to come speak with us, and we can have a place to come and to present various topics to you. So the first topic that we did was CRAZE, which is the response to active shooter and how to stay safe in that type of an event. And then the second half of that was the HOA meeting. So that was the part where, if you were there, you got the real quick version of it. And it was a general HOA meeting. It wasn't specific to a neighborhood. But that was kind of the first one that we've ever done. The second one was planned for before now, but because of the pandemic, it's been hard for us to go out and do some of the same stuff that we've been doing in the community because we're very active in person, face to face, and this just wasn't the right time for that. So we're doing it virtually so that we can still be engaged with you, and I hope that this does help kind of fill the gap for now until we can be face to face again. That's kind of the theme behind Community Day. So we're going to speak to this particular Community Day now. So we spoke about the first one. This is going to be the second one in the year. And its topic is, generally speaking, about police and citizen contacts and use of force. So this was all prior to Minneapolis. I was coming up with this topic well before that. My partner and I were sitting in the office and we said, what topics are kind of important and what topics do we think the community would benefit from and would help build our relationship with the community. So we were tossing around a couple ideas and ultimately landed on that because we felt like it was an area where, even though we do have a good relationship with you, it's a commonly misunderstood aspect of what we do is, how do we pick people to talk to, what kind of investigations do we have, things around us interacting with people, because a lot of our interactions are negative. And not negative in the way that an officer did something wrong, but negative in the way that we're stopping you for a traffic stop, or we're investigating a crime, or something negative has happened that led us to have the contact that we're having. So I feel like it's important to speak to that so we can all have a good understanding and improve the relationships that we do have, even if they're good. So that's kind of the purpose of it. And I'm going to introduce the series, okay? So this ended up being much longer than I had initially thought it would. So instead of having one presentation, it's going to be broken up into 4 parts after today. This is the introduction, just kind of letting everybody know what's going on, introduce myself, and then we're going to go into each series after that. So the first series is going to be about police-citizen contacts, okay, just interactions in general, the types of contacts that we have, and just generally the different levels of contacts that we have, things like that. The second part of this series is going to be more focused on arrest situations and use of force. All right, so it's going to build upon the first one. After that, we're going to look into fatal shootings with research and analysis, because that is kind of a point where there's a lot of information out there, and I'm trying to narrow all that down into what are the facts. Okay, so that's going to build onto the third phase. And the fourth session is, what are we doing as a police department, right? How are we trying to maintain high standards? How are we interacting with the community? What's the hiring process? What's the training that we get? Different things like that to show our legitimacy to you guys, the community, and some of the positive things that we do. So that's an overview, very briefly, of what this presentation is going to be. Again, this is the introduction, and each series is going to build off of itself. And in between each series, I want this to be an interaction between us. I don't want to just be here talking to you or at you. So after each series, I'm going to open it up, I'm going to put my information out there, and I'm going to ask you to respond to me with any questions, concerns, thoughts that you have about what the topic is that we've spoken about today. And I'll make a follow-up video to each mini-series and try to answer and address as many concerns and questions as I possibly can in that video, so that you guys can have a back and forth dialogue with me, and then you're not just having to listen to me. You can communicate with me and we can have an exchange back and forth, because ultimately I think that's where we build together a better understanding, is being able to communicate with each other back and forth, as opposed to me just saying a bunch of stuff to you. So that's kind of the goal, and that's kind of the layout and the format that I've created. So without further introduction, we're going to go into the actual introduction. So I'm going to speak about myself a little bit because not everybody knows me. I am the residential watch officer for the city of Alpharetta, and what that means is my main primary job is to be your point of contact as a citizen. So neighborhood problems, neighborhood questions, neighborhood concerns, anything relating to you living in the city as far as your HOA stuff. I come to HOA meetings, I do presentations specifically for your neighborhood. So if you need me for that or would like me to do a presentation, I'd be happy to set one up with you. Just reach out to me and we'll make it happen. I also have a lot of other functions. So anything proactive in the community. So I'll put on presentations, I'll go to schools, talk to kids, always talking to Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, doing tours of the police department. I do bicycle patrols of the Greenway downtown, parks, anything city center that would be accessible for a bicycle. Just a different way to be able to engage and interact with the community as well as patrol and try to keep everybody as safe as possible. So that's a little bit about me in general. I have been a police officer with the city for the last 12 years, and I recently served as a field training officer on patrol shift B Squad. I'm going to speak a little bit about why I got into law enforcement, just because I feel like that's important, because not everybody would have a relationship with a police officer to be like, hey, why did you get into law enforcement? And a lack of firsthand knowledge just creates the ability for somebody to fill in the gap. So I don't want you to fill in the gap with police officers are just police officers because of X or Y. I want you to know personally why I'm a police officer. And I can't speak to everybody, but this is just my experience. So I went to high school around here, and I was in 10th grade, sitting at my desk in Latin class, and all of a sudden on the TV is airplanes flying into the World Trade Centers. I'm from New York originally. You may be able to tell by my accent. It's faded over the years. But so I'm sitting there watching this unfold in front of me in 10th grade in Latin class. And that's when I said, I need to spend my life protecting and serving my community as best as I can. I had thought about going into the military, and ultimately I landed in law enforcement. But seeing all those police officers, firefighters, first responders running to go put themselves in danger to save everybody else, I said, I want to be that. So I have a lot of family in New York still. I have family that works in the city. I have family that was supposed to be in the building that day and luckily was not. That event is what pushed me into getting into law enforcement. I, like you, I'm just a person, right? I know I'm a cop, but I'm just a person. So people see the uniform and they're like, robot, bad guy, whatever you want to associate with the uniform. Not you in particular, but just people in general. And I think one thing that people don't associate with the uniform is that we're just humans, right? Just like everybody else. I have a family. I'm a husband and a father to 3 children, okay? So I think this is part of where we can have a breakdown between us and communities that we serve. Is people see just a uniform, just a badge, but they don't see the person behind it. We're not just cops, we're humans too. We will make mistakes just like anybody else does. The problem is, how do we handle mistakes that we do make? And what happens when an officer's actions cross over from just a mistake to something that's illegal, immoral, or unethical? And ultimately the result from that action is a loss of trust with the communities that we serve. I think this is a critical area where we can begin to break down some of the barriers that exist between police and communities, while building understanding and hopefully regaining some trust and legitimacy. So that's a little bit about me. What is my mission with this whole series? My mission is simply this: just to use the sphere of influence I have within the city of Alpharetta as your residential watch officer, to speak to you, the residents and the citizens that we serve, to effect a positive communication around a difficult topic in which we can enhance the quality of life for those of you that live, work, and play here, through open, honest, and respectful dialogue. That's kind of what my mission is in a nutshell. Ultimately, I'd like to build on the trust and understanding that we have with many of you, while recognizing at the same time we may not yet have achieved that with some of you. With that in mind, I strive to take proactive measures to rectify the relationships that need to be and that can be. And one of the ways I want to do that is through this presentation. I'll speak to many, 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 many more proactive ways that we have positive encounters in the community. Later on in the series, as I mentioned, that's going to be the fourth part, okay? So I appreciate the support that we get from many of you. We are very fortunate and lucky to serve the citizens of Alpharetta because many of you do appreciate and respect us, and we're grateful for that. But we don't want it to be just blind support. We want to continue to earn it. Okay, we don't want you to just automatically be like, I appreciate you. We want you to have validity behind that and to have respect behind that and to have understanding behind that, and we want to continue to earn that respect from you. I hope that this series will instill a good sense of understanding and respect for us, and even in some of you who maybe don't support us. And speaking to that, if we have not yet earned your trust, that's okay. I want you to know that I am not here to argue with you. I'm not here to tell you you're wrong. I'm not here to convert you or to change your mind. Because all I ask is that you have an open mind and ears to listen, as well as constructive feedback throughout the series. So just get back in touch with me. I'm going to put my email out there, and then send me some thoughts, questions, concerns, and we can have dialogue back and forth on it. So all I want to do is go through this series and try to further build and mend any relationships with any of you who choose to allow me to take that next step toward healing with you. Okay, so if we have not yet earned your trust or respect or anything like that, I hope that through this series we can work toward having a better relationship. So, how can we heal the current divide in the country? That's a almost impossible question, right? So here are two things that I feel like may be contributing factors towards some of the divide going on between police and their communities. One is emotions and the other one is just differences, okay? So what does that mean? It means we can't fight hate and anger with more hate and anger, okay? We cannot fight differences with more divisiveness. The light in the darkness is love and not hate. My best thoughts are these. Let's add unity to the equation. We are all united as humans and Americans. So how do we unify? Let's just start with what we have in common. We all want to live happy, healthy, and peaceful lives. We are one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have decided to divide ourselves for far too long, and now is the time to unite with each other. If we add unity, then we inherently begin to eliminate the divisive lines that we allow to exist. While unity is important, I was recently reminded about grace by my pastor. Grace is defined as courteous goodwill. If we can show courteous goodwill to each other, we will continue to unite in understanding, and division cannot live where grace is present. I know that I cannot fix the world, change the state of politics, control the media, remove all bad cops from law enforcement, or make every citizen understand that not all cops are bad. But my offer is simply this. Let's show each other more grace in an intentional effort to become more united. I feel that that is at least an attainable starting point. Okay? So with that in mind, we're going to shift gears a little bit and we're going to talk about what's coming up next. So the first part, like I said, of the mini session is going to be police and citizen interactions. That's the first series. So we spoke about that in the introduction, okay? But I want to remind you that's what's coming up next. Also, I wanted to thank you for being a part of this, okay? I want to thank you for joining me. I want you to thank you for listening and being open and honest with me and taking a step toward helping our community and our police department. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being willing participants, and thank you for your time.